Again, I don't have the agenda. We want approval of the minutes of which meeting was it?
March 17th.
March 17th?
Yep.
Can I get a motion to approve the minutes of March 17th?
I'll move it.
Second? Jack?
Mary,
Mary? Okay, all in favor? Opposed? So moved. Resolution. Paul, you want to take this or Lisa?
Okay. I didn't know we were gonna hit, let's go right up front with this. Okay. So, grant application or the grant award Z182, which is the ESD grant, Empire State Development expires this year, December 31st. So we're trying to finish all the work out there that we need to do under that grant, which is, a few different items. It's, number one, it's the filling of the DSA1 area, filling of the wetland areas, because we're about to get a permit to fill those. It's going to be bringing the parcel that Visions is going to buy up to grade, and it's going to construct a stormwater basin in the vicinity of the future roundabout. And we're also going to do a little bit more work on the foundation in 1917 building. We've reinforced the beams, everything is good underneath the building, but what we want to do is basically build a retaining wall. We're going to take the side of the foundation, which is open up, and close it in with some panels, structural panels, so that we can fill on the road side of the 17 building, so we can bring that up to grade, so it'll be a little easier to enter the building from the roadside and enter those garage doors from the roadside. So, so we're doing those aspects of the construction. So I'll start out with there's two resolutions here. One is on the construction side. So on the construction side, to do those elements, we could have gone back out to bid, but we really don't have the time to do that. So what we're looking to do is to have Tioga, whose contract is still open on the building foundation, is to have them execute these remaining work under a change order. So the change order would be up to $340,000 to accomplish those items. And we went over the procurement policy with Bob Murray yesterday, and we found that we're in compliance with the procurement policy to do the change order in a number of different ways. One, there's a exception here as far as timing. If it would cause a delay, that would cause corporation harm, which would be the grant. If there's unique conditions to allow award. Remember, this was competitively bid before, so this is a change order, not like we're sole sourcing really. But still, we're following the procurement policy anyway. But because we're going back to the foundation and doing more work, that was a contractor that built the foundation. They have the current warranties and everything else, and the current liabilities associated with that foundation. We don't want to mix contractors and put somebody else out there to do this wall on that one side. So we think from that aspect too, it's another aspect of the procurement policy that allows us to award to Tioga. So I guess the first resolution would be we need a resolution to approve a change order to the Tioga contract for the 1917 building foundation for amount up to $340,000.
Okay. Yeah. Any questions? I know we dealt with Tioga and Harbor Walls with the overages, and they were more than generous with us as far as working with getting everything settled. So they've been great to work with. So if that
They've been a great
means anything to anybody, that's
nice quality work. Great contractor. Yeah.
I had a question. How'd you come up with that? This is Jack. I'm sorry. How'd you come up with that figure?
Well, we're kind of backing into that figure. So in the engineer estimate, we should be able to fit all those components we're talking about. Actually, it's a little under the engineering estimate. We'll go through final, basically negotiations with Tioga after we give them the documents, the change order documents, the plan sheets, basically. But what it is, Jack, is there is, let's see, 410, there's $450,000 left. And we reserved I think that's right. We reserved 40,000 for the purchase of Jones Chemical. So that's 410. You have a consultant change order, which is the next thing I'm going to present. That's 70. And the remainder is that 340? Yeah, 340. So we really backed into that amount. It gives us a little bit of cushion with the contractor, but that's all that's left in the grant. We're going to make sure that we have the fair price from the contractor. So once we have the plan sheets, once we have the final amounts of fill, once we have all those unit cost items, we're going to check all that and make sure that they're giving us a good price. Yeah.
Right, but they just hit us up for what, 70 grand last time, right? Because there's some, so no, it's another 370 grand, right?
Well,
I mean, so we're
I'm
up
not
to,
sure
we
which
were up
one.
to what, $440,000 or something like that?
so I don't know if you're
I mean,
getting
that's
confused
$500,000
between the
right
bulkhead
there.
contract. The bulkhead, so on the foundation contract, there was a change order number one. Change order number one was when we lifted the building and we actually got under the 1917 building, there was there's beams that we couldn't see when it was on the ground that were deteriorated. Some of them were cut off halfway, some of them were cobbed together. So the building, the 17 building, the beams underneath needed repair. So that change order covered the cost of changing out a number of those beams, replacing the wood beams with steel beams.
Right.
And we, they gave us a cost. We verified it with our engineers to make sure the cost was reasonable. And then remember, we asked them in that same change order, we asked them to demolish the Arctic ice. So it was.
But they charged us for that, right? I mean, that wasn't free.
No, it wasn't free. It couldn't have been free. No, it was. They had a.
So they didn't do us any favors.
Demolish.
I'm just saying that we need to get a point where we know how much we got to spend on this building and be done with it. That's all. So that's all. It's getting expensive. An extra $500,000. That's a lot of money, I think. That's all I'm saying.
Keep in mind, the thing we're doing now in the building, Jack, is not really. What we're doing is if you've been out there, you see the foundation is there's
timbers underneath.
Yeah, there's piers, wall piers, and there's spaces in between each pier. And to fill against that, we want to fill on that side of it. We have to enclose that one side of the foundation in order to fill against it. So there's nothing wrong with the foundation right now. It's an extra step to allow us to fill next to the building, so it's easier access from that side.
All right. Well, you guys are engineers, but we didn't know this before. We didn't know we needed the extra fill before we went into this.
Well,
this wasn't part of the original plan. They didn't see that when they were first figuring it out.
It was, but once we got the road in, we were taking a look at the usefulness of that building. It was actually an idea, geotechnics from a line. We looked at, the way we can utilize that building in the future. And this looked to be a really good idea to allow us to get into those bays by foot. So it's going to increase the value. So when private property, so when that goes out to RFP, and we have a private developer looking at that building, it's going to be a lot more attractive to them.
Right.
And right now we're just putting basically that retaining wall up, and the fill for that building will go in under the next phase. When we do the promenade, we get the money for the promenade, that's when we'll actually fill it. But we're going to use Tioga, while they're out there to do the retaining wall.
Okay.
Yeah.
I assume Paul Schickel's okay with what we're proposing.
Yeah, Chippe's been okay with anything with regard to the foundation. We're going to skirt it up. So, yeah. So you won't even, so between the fill and the skirting, you won't even know this is there. So either it's going to be underground or anything that's exposed will be skirted eventually. Again, during the promenade design execution of that, it'll all be skirted and covered.
And just so we're making that at this point, how would we know?
No, that was negotiated with the feds. you know, if we could have moved it, we would have moved it. I mean, it was ludicrous to move it and bring it back, you
I say
know.
once it's fully developed and so forth, that you look at it and maybe reevaluate.
If it can be moved.
Well, it used to there now, yeah, we spent a lot placing, the footers and.
You know, $1 million went in that building so far.
I'm glad he's sitting.
We talked about that. The mayor is County Hill.
But Paul, the other piece of that though too is that SHPO wants it in that location too. It was part of in order to tear down all the other buildings that we want to tear down, and we told SHPO we were going to preserve that, and the 33 building, that was, that made them okay to move forward with this. Otherwise, we'd probably still be in negotiations with SHPO, would be my guess.
Any other questions, comments? If not, can I get a motion to approve the resolution, the work to be undertaken under Z-182? Brian, second? Councilman Beatrice? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Opposed? So moved. Next, Jack, or Paul?
So that, well, I'll have to write that up, but that was the contractor portion of that 340. So the consultant portion is, as a amendment number 8 to Z-182 is 70,000. Again, we make 340, 70, and then 40 reserved for the property acquisition of Jones Chemical. So in the consultant amendment 8, there's additional project management for this, basically this final year of the grant, which includes, this is time for project management, public outreach, stakeholder communications, press releases, LDC meetings, LDC progress meetings, stakeholder meetings, et cetera. Then we've got a budget in here for property acquisition assistance. So it's basically the portion of the their speech work related to getting the Jones Chemical deal negotiated in the property purchase. That'll include some kind of discussions with regard to the ongoing remediation that has to occur there, and an agreement with the current owner to continue the work relative to the remediation. And then we've got a budget in there on the property acquisition for $7,500 more worth of survey. Some of that property survey, we're also anticipating we might need some topo on the National Grid side. We'll get into some of that over there when we talk some more here. That's the second task. Third task is we've got site preparation design for phase 2 DSA 1. So what's remaining to do there is we pretty much through all the wetland permitting. It's been through a number of iterations. There's a small budget in here to get through the final step with the Corps of Engineers to get the final wetland permit. And then it's the change order documents that I talked about. On the engineering side is the plan sheets for the retaining wall at the foundation, the final fill grades at DSA 1, the details on the stormwater basin, which would be adjacent to the roundabout. And then the coordination with DEC for the approval of the fill. We've already tested the fill. It's going to come from White's. And unfortunately we ended up having to pay for the fill, but to get the fill we needed for geotechnical reasons, we ended up with having to go to Lights. But we need a lot less than we initially thought, but we have some clean material in over there in the last 2 projects, so we've lessened the amount of cubic yards, but we do need this better quality material to go over there now. Also included in there, and Ben will get into this more as the meeting progresses, but there's some time in here for Alon to do a refinement of the harbor, or the Harbor Point side, the southwest side of the harbor where the where National Grid is, to refine the multi-use fields concept. Everybody's aware of the multi-use fields concept, but it's taking another step forward, and it's one of the reasons why the mayor's here to have a discussion today. So that's some work on the multi-use fields. There's also construction phase services to oversee the filling of the DSA 1, the final filling, and the construction of the stormwater basin, oversee that. And then lastly, we've included a pretty good budget in here for some special renderings. It's important now that we get high quality renderings, so that as we start to look at different agencies, federal, state agencies that come in to help fund the remaining portions of the work, that we can help sell what we're doing with these renderings. So we're looking to do a high quality rendering on the future pedestrian bridge that connects to the sports district. I've got the National Grid demonstration, the Parthenon, the reuse of that, the water park concept at Lee Street. And we've also put in here, again, it's a little bit beyond this, we've also agreed to do a rendering of the stadium, potential soccer stadium on the sports district, because it connects to the harbor district, and it's all part of the package here. So it's those renderings, and I think that's everything in here. There's a little bit of time. We have to do a periodic review report to report to DEC that says that we're in compliance with the site management plan. DSA 1's under what DEC calls the site management plan. We have to review that we're in compliance, and we have to sign off on that every couple of years. So they're looking for a compliance report. So we've got to produce that. We've got that just about done, but we do need a little bit more money to finish it up. So all that together is 70,000. Well, 69,700 for the Amendment 8.
Okay.
So we would need a resolution to award Amendment 8 to Leland Consulting Team for the amount of $69,700.
Can I ask a question?
Yep.
I see all these drawings and everything, and I still don't see any piers for the boat hookups or anything like that. I just don't want it to get like the old Proctor High School field where there was no bathrooms for anybody to go to bathroom. I mean, one of the biggest things on this is to bring boats in, and I would think with these new renderings that you're going to be using, especially being that you're on that side of the canal, you'd want to include that.
So bathroom facilities for the multi-use fields, or at
No,
the marina?
Floating, docking.
I was talking about docking. I mean, Proctor High School built a beautiful football field a couple of years ago, and they never put a bathroom in for anybody to use. I was just making a point. Whereas, we're building this, but a big part of it is the boating aspect, and we keep missing,
But
exactly where that's going to fit and how it's going to look and everything. I just want to make that a sticking point on my end, because I think it's important.
but it is, Jack, on the promenade design. We do have it indicated in the promenade design. You're going to see in a second the area that we're talking about now for the active fields, but we do have it. We do have it on the promenade design. Absolutely.
All right, thanks.
If you remember, the Department of State grant, that goes through the city. Brian Thomas commissioned the last Department of State grant, and that was for the full design of the marina and the promenade. So we're heading towards full design plans for the marina and promenade, and that's all in there.
All right, thank you. I appreciate it.
So, you're.
Okay. Nothing else? Can I get a motion to approve the consultants agreement?
I'll move that.
Thanks, Jack. Second?
I'll second it.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Okay, let's get to the good stuff. Corp?
Yep.
Bob or Lisa?
I think Melanie's on, right? You want to update him, Melanie, on your conversations with I just forgot his name.
Casper. Yeah, Pete
Casper.
Casper, the attorney, yes. So as you know, we've been going back and forth with him. We asked for a $500 a day increase if they stayed past February 28th. They pushed back on that. What they have suggested is that they will be out on February 28th of 2022, and that beginning March 1, they will pay an increased daily rent of $160 a day, which translates to about $4,800 a month if they stay past February 28th. But he assures me they will be out on the 28th of February. So that is the last open item in the contract. They are anxious to get the contract signed and get closed on title. And then they would stay under an occupancy permit until November 2021 at no cost, and then begin paying $2,000 a month for December, January, and February. So we're left with the kind of penalty rent of $160 a day, starting March 1. And you know, if we are in agreement with that, we can. I'm sorry?
Is there an end date to that that says, you know, if they extend it, how long they can extend it for?
Well, it doesn't give them the right to extend it. They say they're going to be out on February 28th. We haven't drafted the language. We were trying to reach agreement on the dollar amount. So we could certainly have it, put an end date in there. But the thought is that they would be leaving on or soon after the 28th. And after that, they would be staying without, in a way, trespassing on our property. And they have no intention of doing that, so.
Then why did they make it $164 a day and not like $500 a day if they're so bent on being out of there?
They said that they couldn't rationally accept that fee, and that they didn't even think it would be enforceable. They're a public benefit corporation, and they really can't get into that kind of penalty rent. So they said they built in a buffer. I think we had talked about April 1 being the drop dead date for us to have them out.
Right.
And that's why they agreed they would leave February 28th.
You believe them?
What's 28 for the work? February 28th, 22. Yeah.
Does it work?
Okay. But for now, it works for now.
I mean, take it.
Well, part of, and also remember too, that they have, so I see Rob there. Hi, Rob. We talked to Rob about, their timeline too, and correct me if I'm wrong, but Rob, since you're there, this timeline worked with you if they were out by February 28th. But they also said if you needed to get in there earlier in the 33 building and do anything, that was okay, because their offices are going to be in that little outbuilding off the southwest corner of the 33 building. They're not going to be in the 33 building. That piece of machinery is going to be in there though. So, that's just for consideration, unless Rob, I'm off on the timeline.
Lisa, how can we work on it? How can Rob work on it if there's equipment in the building?
They agreed to move, and Melanie, maybe you want to ask Peter this, but
Yeah.
they agreed, they said, we'll move it when you want us to move it, but they only want to move it once. So if we said, that piece has to be out of there by whatever we say, November 1st, they said they will move it.
Right.
Yeah.
And I can
Yeah,
certainly
Lisa.
remind Peter of that.
Yeah, Lisa, from my end, I mean, obviously, I've been talking with the mayor recently, within the last month here, I mean, we'll be able to kick things in faster here or just go with that timeline. I agree with the mayor. I mean, if that's the date, that probably works fine, if that's the date, but I'm good with it, whatever.
But you do need the piece of equipment removed by a certain date that's in advance of February 28th?
I think whenever you get into rehab in a building, I mean, Dave and Paul can certainly talk to them more like this, but I mean, we got to get the prints up and going. We have to, it does come with historical tax credits as well. So there's a process. I think that process can move pretty swiftly, at least half a year. But I think once you get into construction, that stuff's going to have to be out of there. Yeah. I don't really see how you'd be able to kind of do both of them and work around them.
Hey, Melanie, I think if you remind Peter of that, we could, at some point, Rob's going to say, I'm ready. And it might, I'm guessing it's probably going to be before 28th, 2022. That piece of machinery has to get out of there. So,
Mhm. Yeah, I'm just wondering how much time they're going to need, advance notice to remove it. And that's why I'm wondering if we should start with a date that's even earlier than you think you might need it out.
Well, it's tough. I mean, we're in the process of moving trains right now down to the Children's Museum. I mean, whenever you get into moving heavy equipment, it really does have to be planned out. Well, why don't we find out how long it would take them to get it out of there, Melanie, and then we'll back from there.
Okay. I'll have that conversation.
And then correct me if I'm wrong, but, so Rob, you just said you're gonna probably advance the drawings and you're gonna want the tax credits, which means you're gonna need drawings, rehab drawings. You're probably gonna need as-built, et cetera, for the building, so you're gonna need access relatively soon, I would guess, to the building.
Yeah, I mean, Dave is definitely more equipped to answer a lot of this. I know with, when you're dealing with the historical tax credits, you know, there's basically 3 steps. And that main step is about 40% completion on your prints. So, I mean, we haven't even really sat down and went through all this yet, but, you know, I don't see it taking a long time on my end. You know, like, and when I say a long time, I mean, we could have everything, I would assume, put together in, you know, 6 months to 8 months would be probably more than conservative enough.
I guess I would just want to confirm with Peter, Melanie, that, if, you know, Rob and, Dave, as architect, want to get in there, you know, even June, you know, or May, you know, soon, next month, that they're able to.
Okay. But we are okay on the pricing, the increased rent of 160 a day past the 28th. Are we agreeable to that?
Jack?
I mean, if what I've been told is that even that 164 seems is really isn't reasonable in the sense that they really don't even have to pay it. I guess, I don't know, they need to get out of there, you know, as soon as possible. So I just think we ought to need to use, you know, every means we have to just to move them along, whatever that is.
Yes. I think what we're gonna, as we go through the meetings, is you're gonna see, designs for the recreational side of the harbor that maybe we can take to the Canal Corp and hasten their exit.
Yep, Vin, I had one question on that, or whoever that was. If we have to get in there, can they put up like a temporary tent on the outside to move the equipment on the outside, just to get the hell out of there so they could do their thing, the architects and whoever has to go in there on the construction side?
I mean, they said they wanted to move it once, and, which I get, because it's a multi-ton piece of equipment, but.
What is the equipment, may I ask?
I don't remember what they said it was.
Guys, I don't think it's gonna bother the design, you know. I think, is their intention to get it out of there the same time they're out of there themselves? Are they gonna get it out of there by February 28th or?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Yeah, they will be completely vacated. They will completely vacate the site on the 28th.
Back to what I just said, let Rob and you dictate what needs to be done.
Yeah.
We need to accelerate it.
We will.
Accelerate
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it shows progress, right? Getting it out of there, and, you know, that's great, so.
All right. I think we're okay, Melanie, unless anybody
Okay.
objects.
I'm fine.
All right.
Melanie, do you need
Thanks,
any type of motion on that, or just note that?
I don't think we do. I think we already have
Okay.
authorization to negotiate and execute the contract, so.
Okay.
I would just put in the minutes that, you know, general discussion ensued and no objections were raised to the $160, or, you know, to the fee for staying over.
Got it. Thank you.
National Grid?
Is this where you wanna kind of talk about the multi-use field, the advancement of that thinking, or?
Yeah.
How do we want, Lisa, do you want to put that on the screen, or?
Uh-huh, yep, I can, as soon as I find it. Why are you guys here? Hold on.
I don't know, Mayor, how much you want me to.
I'm gonna stop sharing for just a second. I'll have it. Give me 1 second.
Okay.
We still have
Okay.
to go with the guidelines.
That's why I'm not sure I should be the one.
Okay.
What do you want?
Can everybody see it?
Anyway, there's, this concept has been refined a little bit. It's not different than what we've been talking about. It's kind kind of the refinement of some thinking, but I think what's changed is a big interest in the city and the mayor's administration to really push the multi-use fields concept along and into design and into reality. So the city's always been a partner, but I think they're going to be a real big partner as we move this side of the harbor through. So we've had some meetings with the city on some of the ideas on the multi-use fields, and I think there's also been some updates that maybe the whole board hasn't seen. So I'm not sure what's the best way to go through all this, but on the far west side, you see that big box there, big rectangle. That's where the National Grid wants to move. Well, that's where the National Grid wants to move, will move the substation. Right now, you can see the cluster of softball fields up above the pinwheel or the circle. It's up there right now, and they want to move it to this property. And we had a fight at National Grid for about a year and a half because where they wanted to put it was right in front of the Parthenon, to the south of the Parthenon, which we always felt was the premier location for fields and activities on that side. So they did finally move it. It's moving as slow as molasses. I don't know where they are right now. We need a new update from them, but that's where they want to put it. Below that, you see a little red building, and you see a little road addition there. That's the Oneida County IDA kind of. We didn't realize they did this, but they had control of that property, and they sold it to Adirondack Scenic Railroad, and Adirondack Scenic Railroad has been working probably like 3 years now. I don't know what's taking so long there either, but they're working on a maintenance yard in that vicinity. But we realized IDA had owned that. We were about 3 months too late. We were hoping to get control of that. LDC maybe would have a shot at it, but we were a little late to the table. But anyway, they'll be there. I would imagine it will be a nicely kept site. Plumley Engineers is doing the design, and we're working with them because we're working out some sewer needs a pump station on that side, so that's another story. We're trying to get that done. But so that's that. You can see there's 4 soccer fields. The whole idea here, and Rob, that's one of the reasons Rob Ash has joined us, but we're kind of envisioning like Nexus Outdoors, where someday, to complement this, I don't know if you've seen the Community Foundation's vision plan, but they talked about a combination baseball, soccer field, near the inside house. We're hoping that would be built out someday maybe as a soccer stadium. So the idea here is you would have a tournament play outdoors, where you would have these tournament fields, and then maybe someday, the championship game would be played at a future new stadium on the other side. But we really need, you need the 3 or 4 fields in order to accomplish that tournament play. Then the softball fields, something that the mayor was very adamant, and city department heads really felt that a piece of this multi-use field complex also has to host softball tournaments. And so, if we're able to move that, once the substation's moved, it brings up a lot of upland that wasn't available before. Over there at the branch of the harbor, that opened up some room to create a softball field complex there. And then when Mohawk Valley Oil, the triangle's closed, right now that's a hardball size field that's in there, but that can be shortened up a little bit. But that maybe was where the championship softball field. So, when they're done, when you're tournament play and the championship teams go play the final game, they can move over to that field. So it's kind of the same thing, you know, that what's happening at Nexus, where whether it be hockey, soccer, or indoor soccer, or lacrosse, the championship game moves over to the odd. So it's creating this, now you got indoor, outdoor, you know, sports mecca in the center of the state, you know, that I think it could be something amazing. And I don't know if Rob wants to add more to it.
I would just say, listen, we are looking for a destination not only for our residents, but for people coming off the thruway and giving them a reason not only to come here, work, play, and live. This is something that's been a kind of the vision for the last 10, 15, 20 years. We have the opportunity to make it happen at this point. We all know that soccer has exploded in this area. We also know that softball has maintained its level of excitement. The option would be at some point with the baseball field, that would be kind of like the final phase if we decided at this point. But when you bring in the Nexus Center, you bring in a water park, you bring in all this family fun activities with adults and family, it really gives you the opportunity to generate a tremendous amount of revenue for the city and for the region, and make them a state-of-the-art facilities so people talk about it as they talk about going to Williamsburg or some of these other areas that are iconic. We're trying to make this an iconic destination, but I don't have the time to say we're going to do it in 5 years. I want to put this out within 2 years.
Yeah, I think, you know, to the mayor's vision, I actually think it's spot on when you look at, you know, there's only one means of ingress and egress. So I think if you get into stadiums in Harbor Point, it becomes a problem if you're looking at 5,000 to 7,000 people going in. And we all know with youth sports, a lot of the games are staggered and it's not nearly as inundating when it comes to parking. I mean, you really only need probably 450 spots for what's shown there, plus with the pedestrian bridge. And, you know, to Paul's point, like, for instance, Nexus is purchasing software, scheduling software, but it aligns with the mayor's vision of really getting people to our city more so than, you know, necessarily a sports team where we kind of just, you know, reuse each other's money because we go to a team, which does create a huge civic pride impact. But this is really getting people from outside of our area into the heart of Utica, and it actually strengthens, you know, the hotel industry, the restaurants, bars, but more importantly, some of our tourist assets like Utica Club, the zoo, things of that nature, which is really kind of, I think, paramount and everything. You know, I want to kind of, I know you guys passed this and you might have glanced over it a little bit. I think the one critical step, in my opinion, is when we did Nexus, we basically did exactly what you guys did, where we proved that 3 sheets of ice could civilly work there on that site. And then we had rendered out what Nexus could possibly look like. Obviously, what we're building today looks nothing like the conceptual rendering. And I think it's really important to kind of blue sky this thing with the pedestrian bridge, the fields. There's a lot of great sites out there throughout our country. The ESPN Worldwide of Sports. If you guys Google that, you can really see what's out there. People come from all over. The water park is another vision that, you know, maybe to all of us, you know, it's kind of like a long shot 5 years ago. As we sit here today, I actually think with the vision that Andy Patel and the mayor have had on that, it also is adding an element of adventure park to it with rock climbing and different games and things of that nature. And we are going to have 350,000 kids and families coming into just Nexus indoors. You know, you add this to it, you're really kind of doubling that capacity. You can have a lot more soccer events than you can have hockey on those 4 fields. And then the last thing that I guess I touch on is that Parthenon, you know, reimagining that of what that could be, I think should be some of the most exciting stuff that comes out of the group. I mean, just looking at it there, you could do an element of a top golf coming out where it's netting or something off the north side of that. You can have a ropes course. You know, to the mayor's point, you know, the fields are going to be used probably, soccer starts in March and goes till November on those fields. You're going to be
Right.
that purpose. But with the pull, like if you get into a ropes course and thing like that, you can use that year round or not Topgolf the franchise, but something similar to that. You can bring people to that all the time because a lot of that's team building, corporate things of that nature. And I think it's going to be really exciting for the group to kind of think of what that could possibly be.
That's fantastic. Again, I didn't get to that part, but yeah, that's the Parthenon building, but like Rob said, given the size of it, the options for reuse are incredible. And then the water park, which is the mayor has been talking about for quite some time. That's what we put there by Lee Street. That's an actual size that I took that from Palmer, Massachusetts, that hasn't been built yet, but that was the size of the one they were anticipating there, and it fits in it. That's actually city property over there. And then in front of that is Jones Chemical. It's really only thing we could do is a parking lot. Because of there's a groundwater collection system underneath there, and it goes up to a trailer that's in that green spot right there. So we had to program that for parking is really the only thing we can do there, but that gives us 400 spaces in that spot. And, I really think you could get another 400 spaces easily when you really get into, conceptual design stage of this multi-use fields and looking at try to intersperse some other parking among the fields. I think we can achieve another 400 or something. So, so I really think it's really blossoming into something real special on this side. So I think we just want to see if the board agrees, right? I mean,
Yep. Everybody thought that.
I had a question. It's Jack. Can you hear me?
Uh-huh.
Oh, well, I hate to sound one-dimensional, but where's the boat launch that you had right where those baseball fields were and the parking for the trailers and everything?
Up here.
yeah, Lisa, can you put the arrow to the corner?
Right here?
The corner where the National Grid boat launch is right now.
Over here?
It's in where are you?
Yeah.
No, in the harbor, in the corner where we have the fake holder feature. In that corner there's the National Grid boat launch.
Right here?
Down further. Yeah, down right there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
You're gonna be able to get big boats in there with trailers, drop it
So
in there?
here's where I get to kick in. Paul. So this is a supervision, and it's very, very exciting, and I think it's great to have the sports mecca. So now our next step is to, Paul just quickly last night try to get down kind of the program of uses, if you will, which is all of this stuff. So now what we're gonna do is now go to the next phase of a site plan for all of these features. So Jack will make sure all of that's in here. And then what Paul just didn't Photoshop into here is that we were showing docks over in the harbor, and we can either come off of this wall, which is a conversation we want to have with Rob, or we can come off the 17 building. So that decision is yet to be made, but we do have in our promenade design a whole marina boat docks over here.
Right, but you're gonna need a boat launch, and
Mhm.
I thought a good place would be between the round robin field and
Up here.
the top up there. But
Yep.
as long as you got room, and then behind the fields, because you got pickup trucks for trailers that these guys are gonna have to park there.
Yeah, so that's something right now we're going to take all of this and refine it. And it is to scale, but we really need to think about additional parking, the role the Parthenon plays, et cetera. So our next step after this meeting, if everybody really is excited about this, we're going to do a site plan of these features.
What and the large baseball field surrounded in blue, what is that? Is that gonna be like a hardball stadium? Is that what that is, or?
I think, Paul, you said softball here, like a championship softball field.
Okay,
Yeah, that's right now it's showing as a hardball field. It might be, I think in reality, that would be a championship softball field.
Which would be a little smaller.
Yeah.
So they'll do the round robin on the top ones, and then they'll have the final game there, or?
Yeah,
Right.
something like that.
But we could utilize that during.
And like Lisa said, these things are gonna be moved around, any missing components, like you talked about, Jack, the boat launch and all that, that have to be programmed in there. You know, don't think about this as, this is a it's pre-conceptual, really.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's kind of a carrying capacity thing, and then you gotta get into design to, you know, figure all that out, you know.
But really, at this stage, we're trying to define the program. And so we did this, and then we're gonna advance this, and then continue to meet with the mayor and his staff, and make sure everything's right and as we move forward. So this is Paul's trying to get all the ideas down literally on one piece of paper. So we'll make sure that things like that, Jack, are in this next step.
Lisa, can you send us that up once it's updated?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Lisa, Tom Colucci here. I just want to give you an update on the the substation.
Right, good.
We don't have that design quite finished yet, but they're telling me that we expect to have something by the end of May. So I'd like to share that with everyone as soon as I can, just to give everyone an idea of where that's going to be located and how it's situated.
Perfect.
So,
I apologize.
and then,
Sorry about the last comment, Tom.
So
Good.
Tom, the mayor,
sure,
Tom, are you still there?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. So as we're starting to really move this a little bit more rapidly than it has moved in the past, I have a very strong relationship with Melanie, and to start moving with National Grid, would you recommend that's the individual I deal with, or is there somebody else?
I'm sorry, who were you dealing with, Mayor?
Melanie.
Oh, Melanie. Oh, yeah. Well, you can work through me. I work for Melanie. So I would appreciate, if there's anything going on that you would include me and I can take it to her directly. I know she's keen on this project as well. And I also wanted to report back, there was a parcel that the city or the development agency is interested in purchasing down there. And it's currently under review for a property transfer. And I understand that what they're looking to do is not an outright sale, but a 99-year lease, where we would retain, some management aspect of that property. So, and I think that's important for both the company and for the city. You don't want to take in any more liability than you want to. So we would retain that.
And Tom, that would be this area, which we've always been referring to as parcels 7, 8, and 9, which is that you can kind of see this faint road. So this area is mounded.
Yeah.
And there's a stormwater treatment system on that, which is we'll have to take into consideration. And Paul and I have already started talking about that so that we could use this area for fields or parking.
Yeah, I think our only, we control, I believe it's lot 7.
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe we have ownership of 8 and 9. But that particular parcel that we do own, I know there may be some small buildings, collection or some type of equipment there that needs to remain there. So I don't know how that sits in the greater plan, but that's what they are telling me. That there's anything there, little small buildings or that type of infrastructure needs to be maintained.
Right.
Tom,
Tom, maybe Tom, Paul and I can cycle with you offline because we were looking for information. Like if you had an as-built drawing of that parcel, that would be really helpful.
and Tom, can you confirm?
Yeah, I can look into that for sure.
Yeah. Hey, Tom, can you confirm for the LDC when you say parties interested, you mean the local development corporation, right? You don't mean somebody else, right?
Oh, no, that, it's, this group right here, the Harbor Development Corp.
Okay. Tom, and they also wanted me to mention, when we first started meeting on the substation, there was ideas coming from the National Grid side that if the LDC or the city undertook a pedestrian bridge project, that the National Grid might be interested in participating in that from the standpoint of using it for conduit for electric lines. And it would be flood resilient, you know, if it's above ground.
I could bring that back to the design team. Is that going to be, what type of conduits would be on there that we would be using? Is that electric?
I'm assuming
For,
electric.
and where would it be located?
Roughly here on the screen. Tom, can you see the screen?
I could see the screen. Okay,
Roughly
so
somewhere.
you're down,
So you'd take Washington Ave where it used to go, but the railroad tracks bisect it. So take Washington Ave, and then my image is cut off, but the odd is right here. So it'll be somewhere in this vicinity.
okay.
And we talked to
Okay, so
Mike,
that would,
Mike
okay, so
about that.
would-
Mhm.
I had a
Okay,
question.
I could,
Go ahead.
I'll take that back.
Okay,
I had a question on that, Lise.
yeah.
Where the circular portion where the bridge is, just below where your arrow is now,
Mhm.
do we own that piece of property or does A&P own that?
I'm not sure the answer to that.
Because I know he wants to, I was with him the other day and he's talking about expanding in that area. So I would think that we'd want to have a talk with them about that, or that's going to change, you know, where you're going to put that bridge.
Mm-hmm.
He's expanding on his own property, right?
Yeah, Howard's purchased a fair amount of property from the urban renewal agency already. The area that's shown in the rendering is owned currently by the city.
Okay, good. That's good, Brian. All right. Because I know he's expanding and he's talking about building a couple buildings, so.
Is he just right here, Brian? It'll be on the tax parcel map, Brian?
Yeah, more west, it's more towards the parking lot.
Okay.
He does own from his building over to the property line where that circle is, but not past it.
Right up to.
Where the circle is the site that was previously sold to the Cooperage, but they backed out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
And I did, it is good that's not, one thing I did do is I talked to the head of Rambo Bridges in Copenhagen today, and she was fantastic. But she did say, you know, do not program anything else for that property right now. Do not, the approach to that bridge, especially if that's gonna be a marquee bridge, and you want maybe bicycles and everything else, you wanna wind it up there. You need space and you also need the aesthetics to make it something special.
Yeah, so I mean, what you have now with Nexus actually has a lease agreement. We have a lease agreement with the city and there's about 250 parking spots where that landing spot for the pedestrian bridges. And to Paul's point, that pedestrian bridge is really gonna suck in South Utica into the harbor as much as Lee Street will due to parking. And, you know, you can have a vision or, you know, of that bridge staying up higher and kind of overseeing those soccer fields, even as it carries into the harbor, you know, which would be very cool to have an elevated experience for bikes and walkers alike, you know, whether you get into cross country that starts on one side of that and goes to the other in and around. I think it's really important that, you know, Paul's idea there or his vision is really enhancing that mouth, if you will, of the pedestrian bridge.
The bridge itself should be a place-making feature, you know,
Mhm.
it should be attractive.
You plan on putting a driving trolley there so they can pick the people up and drive them over as well for people that can't walk that far or anything like that?
No, it's a pedestrian bridge
Okay.
for walking and biking.
Right. Cause it's a fairly long walk for older, just thinking, guys, off the top of my head, it's just a fairly long walk. If we could at least make it where we could have like a little, maybe like a rickshaw or something like that, bringing people over if there's enough room or something like that, you know? Because it's good, because you're gonna go uphill and then you're gonna go downhill. And if you're gonna have senior citizens in that area, they're gonna wanna walk it, you're gonna have issues. So I'm just saying, you might wanna make it big enough maybe for a bike lane on it. So if you could, you know, could have some type of motor transportation to get them up and back and forth from there.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we can take use for an example, what we've had over on, Whitesboro, and that was, on the north side of the arterial, that pedestrian bridge, and the use of that bridge. And that gives you the availability with the bikes, little carts, the motorized carts. So it would be on the same premises of that, Jack.
That'd be great, man. That's good. That'd be perfect.
Okay.
We'll get you a Segway, Jack.
Yeah, right. Hey, listen.
And then, no, Jack,
I'm just gonna get on the mayor's back and he's gonna carry me over. He says he's been carrying me for the last 6 years anyway, so you might as well continue.
All right, get your legs on, Mayor.
So just to end that conversation, and thanks Tom Galucci for being on, but the conversations with National Grid are going to be very, very important moving forward. So.
and pretty intense, Mr. Gucci, Tom. So I'm just gonna let you know, this, and I want to let you, at least you can go back to Melanie at this point and what anybody else. This is an opportunity once in a lifetime for this region. And we don't have 5 or 10 years to get it done.
No, I'm at a Harbor Point meeting. I'm online.
Thanks, Jack.
Mayor, our next step is to begin to advance this. Would you like me to start working with Tom on the specifics of this design? Do you want to have a meeting first before we do that?
You know what, Lisa, yes, and I would probably take a call with you tomorrow with maybe a conference call with Brian and Paul and my staff.
Okay. Because I know we're going to meet with you on May 6th, so we were planning on advancing this idea for that meeting.
He wants final design by May 6th, please.
Okay, we got it. I know that you're eager to move, so we actually had a meeting this morning with Jer, our designer, and Paul, and we're ready to roll. So we just wanted to go through today and we'll get started right away.
Hey, Lisa, one more point that I know we touched on briefly that I think would help expedite this a lot outside the renderings is the accessibility. Not just to the Canal Corporation site, but, just that workability. I mean, as we get into spring here and everybody gets excited, a lot of the great work is going to be done in the summer months, planning during the winter, and then ready to construct in the spring. So, I mean, any type of help you could assist there would be terrific.
Okay, great. And Tom Colucci, if you can find anything on parcel 7 kind of as an ASAP thing, that's probably one of the most critical pieces that we need on our end. Because that's just sort of a it's a big missing piece of information we have right in the middle of this that we need to understand what's there and contours and stuff like that.
Sure. So I have that as a takeaway, and I do understand the importance of the project for the city. So we'll dig in and see how much work we can do and how soon we can get it done. So
great.
You have my word on that, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom.
Okay. Anybody have any issues with the direction we're taking at this point? They'd like to raise now, before we get going to the next issue? Okay, so if not, what's next? Paul?
Well, next on the agenda was an update on Mohawk Valley Garden. I think we're still, working with Bob Murray and working on agreement phase with Mohawk Valley Garden. But as everybody remembers, we had a RFQ process. The Mohawk Valley Garden team submitted, it was reviewed by the board, and the board had a resolution to go into a negotiation with MVG for the development of the 33 parcels. The 33 parcels, about 3 acres, includes property adjacent to it for development of a new building. And Paul Valley Garden's been here a couple of times presenting their concepts. And Rob's here today, so, you know, if there's anybody has any questions to where MVG is, or at this time, feel free to ask Rob.
And this is, of course, this isn't designed, Rob's still going, but this is the footprint of the 33 building. And Rob, this is the approximate footprint of the additional building that you were thinking about, you know, when we got it. So, and of course, we started thinking about the promenade design and thinking about the transition space between your buildings to the promenade. I think we shared that.
What's that, Lisa?
I think, did we share with you the design for this area? If not, I'll get it to you.
Yeah. You know, I don't want to speak for Dave, but I mean, obviously, I don't really think it's that difficult of a project. And I'm not saying that in a cocky manner. I think there's, you know, we're gonna obviously be able to work with you guys on whatever vision you have from a vernacular standpoint to make sure that everything's done properly. I mean, one of them's new construction and one of them's rehabbing a pretty much an open space. So I don't really see too many issues with talking with Paul on stuff. I mean, we have to get started to that point with Dave, but yeah, I don't have too much on that. Too many issues.
Yeah. So right now I'm working on the, you know, we have the general subdivision lines in the RFP. They're not too different, but we're kind of refining the exact spots, exact property lines for the subdivision. So we're doing that, and then pretty soon the survey will be out there working on that subdivision the same way we worked on the DSA 1 subdivision.
And that's probably the last thing then on, if there's no questions for Rob, the last thing on the agenda is the subdivision at DSA 1. Brian has been helping and been working with Brian, and so we're going to be on the, we think, May planning board to get the 6-lot subdivision up at DSA 1, which creates new parcel for selling to Visions. Brian, I just sent you like your comments back today, so maybe you didn't have a chance to check your email, but it'll be there when you get to your computer.
Anything on Jones Chemical, Lisa?
No, we're just gonna, this was just like an internal concept that we did. So now we're gonna meet with, I'm forgetting his name, but the representative from Jones Chemical to, just confirm that they're interested in selling. As Paul said, we reserved $40,000 of the Z-182 grant to purchase this. We're hoping it's around 30 or 32 because that's what we paid for New York tar emulsions. And just for the board's awareness, this now that I'm zoomed in, this is the trailer that all of the treatment pipes come into to treat the contamination in this area. So we have this weird thing in the middle of this parking lot that can't be moved. But we think this is about what, 350 or 400 spots, Paul?
Yeah, it's almost 400.
Almost 400. So, so we're just gonna meet with him and we'll move forward and start to purchase this key piece of property here.
All right. Got the next 3 monthly meetings on there. So I guess we're gonna try to open up so everybody can come in when you feel comfortable, so. Nice to be in person with some people, so. If there's nothing else, can I get a motion to adjourn? Second? Brian, all in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.